The Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game has evolved a lot over its 2-decade history. Mechanics of the game, rulings, match procedures, hell, even the company that runs the TCG itself changed about a decade ago. But one of the most interesting changes of the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG has actually been aesthetic. Whether you're a DM boomer like myself or you just started playing the game a few years ago, it's pretty much something you can't miss at this point. While I don't want to completely paint this picture with a broad brush, it seems like a decent amount of Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetypes have gotten a lot cuter and girlier in recent years. I mean it from the literal sense, because a lot of the decks that we'll be covering in this video are 100% female based. I'll try my best to make this video as uncringy as possible, although I'll probably fail. Also, don't take this video as some get woke statement. Without further ado, this is the history behind how the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game became dominated by cute waifu decks. First things first, yes, I know I said waifu, and that means that the whole uncringy thing just went out the window. If you watch anime, or you've pretty much ever been on the internet, there's a 100% chance that you know what that term means. For anyone else, a waifu is just a cute girl or woman. Let me be clear from the start, we've always had these decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right from the very beginning. However, the rate we've been getting them over the last few years, the strides they've made competitively, as well as the fanfare they've received from the community has really been remarkable as of late. Let's start at the very beginning. During the original Duel Monsters era, when Yu-Gi-Oh! Was brand spanking new, the game heavily focused on themes that were already established and popular in anime/nerd culture. Themes such as dragons, wizards, soldiers, machines, and evil spirits were super prevalent in the physical card game as well as in the anime. Considering the demographic Konami was targeting, that primarily being young to teenage males, and the times of the late 90s to early 2000s, this made a lot of sense. You're starting up a new card game in anime, better stick to stuff that's popular at the time and popular among boys in general, since that's your target audience. During the DM era, it was quite common, especially in Japan, for cards to have hefty amounts of gore, blood, violence, or just really unsettling things. Note the smiling shrunken head on Acts of Despair. To put it bluntly, an overwhelming amount of cards were designed to be cool and appealing to teenage boys, and card art tended to be much darker in tone. The biggest exception to this was generally cards that related to female duelists in the Duel Monsters anime. Taya is probably the best example I can give to you. In her duels, Taya basically plays a deck that is full of a bunch of random girly and cute monsters. Her favorite card is Magician of Faith, she picked Dark Magician Girl as her deck master, she plays Happy Lover, etc, etc. My Valentine was another prime example. Almost every one of Mai's notable monster cards is female, and this is important because Mai played two completely different archetypes in the anime. She used Harpy Ladies in Duelist Kingdom, Amazonis during Battle City, then back to Harpies in her best performance, Waking the Dragons. With Duel Monsters, Konami essentially set the precedent that female duelists in the anime were going to play girly decks. I believe Konami thought Yu-Gi-Oh! Wouldn't be super popular with girls, at least not popular enough to warrant making a ton of cards that would try to appeal to them. So instead, they just had the female anime characters play girly decks. Essentially, if female Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans decided they ever wanted to play the TCG, at least they'd have a few options to choose from. By today's standards, that probably sounds like a ridiculous and closed-minded business strategy. But at the same time, you have to consider that most of the people running these multi-billion-dollar Japanese companies are super old guys in their 60s who have no idea what kids and teenagers want, and a lot of times don't even understand their own communities. Just look at Nintendo and all their PR problems as of recent. I'm also not saying that this was right or wrong, but this way of handling female anime characters has pretty much held up for 20 years throughout the various Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series. The reason I'm mentioning the anime so much is because the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime series heavily influences what comes to the physical TCG. One of the reasons waifu archetypes failed for so many eras in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because, in my opinion, Konami didn't really care enough about making them competitively viable. Look at Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Asuka was clearly the female lead of the show and was wildly popular with the fans. How did Konami reward this? By not even printing her Cyber Angel cards in the TCG until 2016. That's about 8 years after the GX anime concluded. Compare this to characters like Zane and Edo, who not only got their cards immediately, but also had their own duelist packs in 2007, hence the reasons why their decks became meta during the GX era. Furthermore, look at Akiza from 5Ds and how she compares to Crow. Blackwings were so dominant and popular, Konami had to metaphorically rip them out of the player's hands to get them to move on to other decks. Akiza and her weird plant deck got about one set of support, Crossroads of Chaos, and then they basically moved on. Anyways, while the majority of major female characters get the short end of the stick, to their credit, Konami made a very strong effort during the Zexal era to make Mai's Harpy ladies a legitimate contender. In Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, they gave Harpies some phenomenal support that led to the deck seeing some fantastic results on the regional level. The Trap Trick archetype was also introduced during Zexal. This archetype consisted entirely of insect and carnivorous plants disguised as cute anime girls so that they could lead prey into their own deaths. Trap Tricks revolve around using trap hole cards, old and new, to impede the opponent and remove their monsters, while you're free to swarm. While not competitively viable as a pure deck, it was highly successful as a strong engine in the Hand Artifacts Trap Trick deck that won the North American Championship in 2014. I'll be honest, I don't know if Trap Tricks technically qualifies as a waifu deck because they're not actually girls, but they definitely look like girls. In my opinion, this was one of Konami's earliest experiments with making a cute girly deck that wasn't tied to the anime in any capacity. Essentially, they weren't obligated to make it at all. I believe they wanted to gauge how the community would react to an archetype with such a huge tone and appearance shift compared to what they normally made. This was far different than our normal dragons, wizards, and soldiers. As previously mentioned, the archetype was a competitive success, although it never reached the fanfare equivalent to themes like Six Samurai, Lightsworn, or Windups, so that might be why Konami didn't immediately start releasing more decks similar to Trap Tricks. The Vrains era is where everything changed. For starters, Konami made a huge effort not just to making anime archetypes more satisfying to play, but R&D officials have been on the record stating that they wanted them to be competitive. This was massive because it meant that female anime characters would be playing legitimately strong and powerful decks. To Konami's credit, that's exactly what happened. Just a few weeks after the second Vrains set, Circuit Break, was released, Trickstars, played by Aoi Zaizen on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains anime, had already achieved a second place finish at a YCS event in San Diego, California. In my opinion, this was remarkable because Trickstar essentially had just one legitimate set of support at this time. The Trickstar deck was half burn, half beatdown, and was loaded with easy ways to make advantage. The field spell was a +1, Candina, their main normal summon monster, was a +1, even their best disruption card acted as a monster reborn from the graveyard. Not only did Trickstar need almost no resources to get going, but it was one of only a handful of meta decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! History to make life points feel valuable. The deck also had a hand loop, it could lock down back row for free. Add this all together, pair it with triple scapegoats, and we had a literal world beater on our hands. I say literal world beater because Trickstar won the 2018 Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. Konami would follow the roaring success that was Trickstar with another home run anime archetype. Altergeist, used by Emma Bichot in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains anime, premiered in Circuit Break just before Trickstar started to make their mark on the meta. Players were initially lukewarm on the archetype, but those with a keen eye could see early the deck had insane potential. It was loaded with individually powerful cards, and it just needed a consistent way to summon monsters during the opponent's turn. After its fourth set of supports and the release of Altergeist Multifaker, it took off like a rocket. Aesthetically, Altergeist might not appear as if it's a waifu deck, but as a personal huge fan of the archetype, they're cute to me. Plus, the entire archetype is female-based, so it definitely counts. With a plethora of strong trap cards and many forms of monster disruption, Altergeist would have a strong competitive run. This includes tons of regional tops, a YCS win in Australia, and a second place finish at the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship. During Vrains, Konami also made a massive change to the deck building booster sets. Rather than focusing on promoting anime archetypes, they started introducing brand new ones into the game. The first set, Spirit Warriors, failed to impress. However, the second set, Dark Saviors, flipped the entire game on its head. This set gave birth to Sky Strikers, an archetype about a typical blonde high school girl, her mini mecha suit she uses in battle, and her sister who she sometimes fights from time to time. Sky Striker was all-world powerful, and the spells in the deck were obscenely strong. The deck was one of the most consistent in Yu-Gi-Oh history, its recovery was absolutely the best in the game at the time, and its ability to grind was legendary, especially for a deck with no trap cards. To be honest, Striker was so strong, a lot of times when you beat it, you felt like you got more lucky than anything. To put things in a better perspective, Sky Striker won almost 10 YCS championships. One of the more interesting things about Striker is that the deck wasn't just dominant, it was also absurdly popular, and I'm talking about from a fanfare and competitive standpoint. Sky Striker Ace Ray is without a doubt one of the most popular monsters in the last decade. I'll leave it to your imagination as to why. The amount of fan art she has is literally off the charts, the Facebook group is one of the biggest in the Yu-Gi-Oh communities, and the Ray fan-made artwork and merchandise is all over the place. To put this into better context, Sky Striker is so popular as an archetype, some passionate fans have even gotten tattoos of the various cards. For the record, I don't find this to be the slightest bit weird, especially when the tats come out looking this clean. Hell, even I bought some chibi Sky Striker pins, and I don't even play the deck. Competitively, Sky Striker's reached what I like to call Blackwing status. Blackwing status means a deck becomes so overwhelmingly popular in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! That Konami has to spend 3 to 4 ban lists driving the deck into the ground in attempts to get Yu-Gi-Oh! Players to move on to different decks. I could be wrong, but in my opinion, this was once again Konami testing the waters to see how fans would embrace an all-female competitively focused archetype that wasn't tied to the anime in any way. Where Trap Tricks performed okay from a popularity standpoint, Sky Strikers absolutely kicked the door down and became the most popular archetype in the game in the 2018 calendar year. I believe the overwhelming popularity of Sky Striker was eye-opening for Konami. Again, this is just my personal opinion, but I think Konami spent nearly 15 years swaying away from making girly or waifu archetypes outside of the few from the anime because the decisions were probably being made by out-of-touch boomers who didn't think for some reason that their 98% male audience would embrace them. But as it turns out, Yu-Gi-Oh! History has really taught us fans will embrace nearly anything with open arms as long as it's good and competitively viable. Also, newsflash to Konami, if your audience is 98% male, cute girls are probably gonna sell well. The shift in Konami's archetype design post the popularity boom of Trickstar, Altergeist, and especially Sky Striker was almost immediate. A couple of deck building sets after Dark Saviors, Konami released the Infinity Chasers, and would you look at that, another cute all-female archetype, Witchcrafter, premiered. The set after that was Mystic Fighters, which gave us one of my personal favorites, the all-female Dragon Maid archetype. This theme was clearly inspired by the anime Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Even the creator of the show tweeted about how thrilled he was. The Rika would be released in Secret Slayers, Evil Twins, and Genesis Impactors, and Konami has even teased another female-based archetype in the upcoming Ancient Guardian set. If you weren't counting, that is now 5 deck-building booster sets in a row, all premiering female archetypes since early 2019. I actually believe the only reason Hidden Summoners didn't have one is because by the time Konami realized the insane popularity of Sky Striker, the themes for Hidden Summoners were probably already completed. Konami's tone shift to girlier, cuter, and waifier archetypes has been a raving success. If you want proof of this, look no further than Yu-Gi-Oh's infamous waifu tax. The waifu tax is essentially when a card or an archetype is considered to be unreasonably expensive or garner a hefty price simply because the cards have cute or girly artwork. This might sound ridiculous, but it is a 100% totally real thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! And is often talked about by Yu-Gi-Oh! Market Watch YouTube channels.
Future of the game. So is this another like version of the waifu tax?
And you can tell the waifu tax is real. The community eats this up like it's their job.
Is the waifu tax evolving again?
The waifu tax is the realest thing in the world.
The original printing of Dark Magician Girl in Magician's Force is a legendary example of this. When she first came out back in the DM era, she was basically unplayable from a competitive standpoint. However, that didn't stop her from being the single most expensive card in that entire set. Another tidbit I found pretty interesting during the Vrains era was Aoi's Aizen switching to Marin Cess from Trickstar in Season 3 of the Vrains anime. This might not appear appear to be big, but as I previously mentioned, Mai Valentine was pretty much the only other major female character to play multiple different archetypes in the anime, so I think this further goes to show the change from Konami. Many of the newer waifu archetypes such as Dragon Maids, Witchcrafter, and Marincess have achieved legitimate competitive results such as top 8 regional finishes. To me, this without a doubt proves that they can be competitively viable on some level. Because of this, the fanfare these archetypes have received, and the success of previously mentioned archetypes and themes such as Sky Striker, I believe Konami has fundamentally changed how they look at archetype creation. They'll probably never admit it publicly, but we all know that they spent 15 years only making waifu decks when the anime absolutely required it. However, in Vrains, they actually put legitimate time and effort into creating strong ones. The players loved and embraced them so much, they basically couldn't ignore it. Now we live in a world where waifu archetypes and decks are just part of the norm. And with that, we're at the conclusion of our Yu-Gi-Oh story. If you enjoyed the video, or more importantly, you learned something, give the video a thumbs up. Thank you very much for watching.